Morning, everyone. April 21st, Tuesday. Sunny here, but it just snowed a little bit. And it's cold and windy and blustery in Windsor, Ontario. Well, LaSalle suburbs. The world is crazy with madness all over the place, not just in America, but all over the world. People wanting to get back to life as normal. We all do. Madness in Nova Scotia where the death toll keeps rising. It's a sad day. And on a selfish level, my computer is in trouble. So my educating students is taking on even more work, and I feel terrible. Then I realized something. I've been going through a lot of things on the internet every day, looking at how people approach these sonnets. It's very scholarly work. We're doing Sonnet 29 today, which strangely people say is easy to analyze, and I almost disagree, because in reading a couple different versions, older, more modern, I noticed people are punctuating every one of these so differently, and I didn't really notice that before. I mentioned punctuation once before, and I think it was an error. The one I was reading had no periods, but then I went back and looked at other versions, and the punctuation differs. In the one I'm reading today, slightly more modernized language, so it's easier to read, there are no periods, commas at the end of every line, or semicolons. In one of the older ones from previous century, well, 2 centuries ago, there is a period after the word fate, the third line. And that to me is a fourth line, forgive me. Interesting that so many different versions exist. Not surprising, lots of folios exist for lots of people's work, especially Shakespeare. But editors taking liberty with punctuation. Not new, but definitely curious. So I suspect that if I were to ever teach Shakespeare's sonnets, I would pick one and nitpick all of the details of content, language. Like, for example, in the one I'm reading here, the very first line, when in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, fortune is lowercase. But in almost every other version, fortune is capitalized. It is uppercase. It's a proper noun. You have to spend time discussing that. And in this one, the word state occurs 4 times, and each of the 4 can have multiple meanings. State is in the government. State is in the state of well-being. Because in this one, in 29, Shakespeare totally bemoans and weeps and cries about his fortune in comparison to other people. And both his misfortune in not having what his friends possess, no surprise, we live in the world today where we all want to possess what is it, keeping up with the Joneses? And then not being able to possess that young man that he's in love with for these past 29 sonnets. So this is an interesting departure from the beauty of nature, the beauty of the boy, because 28, it's like, I can't sleep during the day, I'm tired, and now he's like, bemoaning his fortune. So I would suspect that you could look into Shakespeare's daily attitudes based on how these are written, look at when they're written, compare it to his geopolitical situation, his personal situation, and no different than a teenager writing love poems. That girl does not love me, that boy does not love me, and then the next day they love me. Take a flower. He loves me not. Anyway, that's enough ramble. But they're getting far more interesting to me. And I hope as I read these, if you do listen to anything I'm saying, that as you read them, that you'll not just look at the surface. Most of the people that are analyzing them look really deep, and I think they are deep and fun to read. Reminds me of being in my university poetry classes. When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state. and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I enjoy contented least. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gates. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. What a fantastic ending. Have a wonderful day. And think of those people in Nova Scotia and all your friends and relatives and neighbors doing the right thing to keep all of this pandemic from affecting more people. Cheers.